Factoring and solving quadratics when a equals 1. Okay, this part of the notes I want you to take at the bottom left of your notes where it says method 1. We're not really going to use that area, and I didn't have a good spot to put this, so I want you to take these notes down there. First of all, take note that a quadratic is in the form ax squared plus bx plus c. So whenever I refer to the a, b, and c in this concept, I'm talking about those coefficients in front of the x squared, in front of the b, and in front of the c. In today's problems, all of your a coefficients will be 1. Okay, next you need to copy down this big star here. You're going to put AC in the top, B in the bottom, AX on the top left and right, and then just put the word factors on the bottom left and right. The factors that we're talking about here are going to be the numbers that multiply to A times C and that add to B. Okay, here's our first example. This is back up at the top of your notes now. So our first example is x squared plus 8x plus 12. And we're going to take note that A is 1, B is 8, and C is 12 here. So filling in our star, we're going to start with AC. A times C is 1 times 12, which is just 12. AX on both sides is going to be 1x and 1x. You do not need to put the 1 if you don't want to. And then B is our middle coefficient, which is 8. Okay, so now we need to find our two factors that multiply to 12 and add to 8. So sometimes it's really easy to tell what those factors are, and sometimes it's a little difficult. So the way that we can always find our factors is start by writing out all the factors of 12. So we're going to write down every pair of numbers that multiply to 12. So let's start with 1. 1 times 12 is 12. Then we'll go to 2. 2 times 6 is 12. Our next factors are going to be 3 and 4. And now that we're back to 4, we know we have all of our factors. So now we need to see which of these factors will add to 8. Well, that'd be 6 and 2. So we're going to put 6 and 2 here. It doesn't matter if you put 6 on the left and 2 on the right, or 2 on the left and 6 on the right. It doesn't matter. Okay, and so our last step here is just to write our factors. And our factors are going to be these two right here, put in binomial form. So we have x plus 6. I'm using plus because that's a positive 6. And x plus 2. Again, I'm using a plus because this is a positive 2. And I've also taken away these two 1s because we do not need them. Again, in this PowerPoint, all of our a's are going to be 1s. So this is what all of your answers should look like today when a is 1. Okay, on this next problem, I finally am reading the directions and realized it says to also solve it. So I should have solved the last problem, but we'll just start from here solving. So we need to start with filling out our star. In the top middle goes A times C. So 1 and 12, so again we have 12 as AC. And our B is negative 7. On the top left and right, we're going to put 1x and 1x. That's our AX and AX. Okay, factors again. We had 1 and 12, 2 and 6, and 3 and 4. So the factors here, none of them actually add to 7, so I can put negatives in here as well. If I made it negative 3 and negative 4, then they would multiply to positive 12, and they would add to negative 7. So negative 3 and negative 4. So now we can write our final answers, x minus 3 and x minus 4. So these are the factored answers. And now to solve it, I need to set each of these equal to 0 and solve. So I get x equals 3 and x equals 4 because I'm going to add the 3 and the 4 over. So my factored answers look like this and my solved answers look like that. Okay, time to fill in the star. A times C in the top middle would be 1 times a negative 12. Make sure you notice that. And my B is a negative 11. AX and AX is just going to be x on both sides. Again, if you want to put the 1, that's fine, but you don't need to. And our factors of 12 again are 1 and 12, 2 and 6, 3 and 4. So none of these are going to add to negative 11, and none of these actually even multiply to negative 12, which is what we need. So we're going to need to put some negatives in some places. 6 and 2, no matter what I do with negatives, those aren't going to add to 11. 3 and 4, no matter if I put negatives in there, those won't add to negative 11. So my factors are going to be 1 and 12, but I need to put a negative somewhere. So let's think about this. If I made it negative 1 and 12, then they would add to a positive 11. So that's not what I want. But 1 and negative 12 would add to negative 11 and multiply to negative 12. So those are the factors that I want. 1 and negative 12. Okay, so our factored form is going to be x and plus 1 because it's a positive 1, and x minus 12 because it's a negative 12. Now when I solve these, I need to set each of them equal to 0. I'm going to subtract over the 1, and I'm going to add over the 12. And there are my solutions. Okay, here our AC is going to be 1 times 9, which is just 9. My B is negative 6, and I have x and x. So factors of 9. We have 1 times 9 and 3 times 3. So now if we look at these, we see that 3 and 3 can add to 6, but we have a negative 6, so we're going to need to make it negative 3 and negative 3. Double check, just make sure that those still multiply to positive 9, and they do. So I have x minus 3 and x with a minus 3. So my factors are x minus 3, x minus 3. There's my factored form. Now when solving this, I'm going to set each of these equal to 0 and solve. Notice they're the same thing. So I'm just going to set one of them equal to 0. Solve it, and I get x equals 3. If you set both of them equal, you would get x equals 3 and x equals 3. That's kind of redundant, so we can just leave it as 1x equals 3. Another side note to make is that this is the same thing as x minus 3 squared. So if you want to look cool, write it that way. Okay, next one, filling out our star, we're going to put negative 21 here, a times c. Put your b right there, and x's and x's. Okay, factors of 21. 1 and 21, then 3 and 7, that's it. So looking at this, I can see I'm probably going to use 3 and 7, because I could make those add to 4 if I make it a negative 3 and a positive 7. So then those would add to a positive 4 and multiply to a negative 12. You should always double check your factors because it's really easy to accidentally say, oh, 3 and negative 7, when that actually adds to a negative 4. So just be careful with your factors. So there's my factored form, and then if I solve it, I'm going to add over the 3, so I get x equals 3, and I'm going to subtract over the 7, so x equals negative 7.